The panel and go over the rules. Once again, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Obi. Can you hear me from the mic? Am I close enough? No. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah, you talk over Obi.
Okay. Just higher. I would also like to thank everyone for coming this evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this, along with the Strategic Planning Implementation Committee of the city. It's important to know who our elected officials are, and we need to know how to vote, and we appreciate that. Thank you for the people for coming, and especially thank you to the candidates for not only coming this evening and giving their time and presenting themselves. That's not an easy thing for people to do, but for turning out and offering their time and their talents to serve public service. We appreciate that. The rules tonight are we're going to have 2 one-hour sessions. The first hour will be for the school board candidates. After that, we'll take a 15-minute recess, do a little reset here. If you need to get water or cookies, you can slip over there to the corner quietly. And then we'll have a 1-hour session for the Board of Alderman candidates. We'll start by giving each candidate 1 minute to introduce him or herself and present any information you would like to present. Questions have been compiled by the Chamber Candidate Forum Committee and presented by the public. With the limited amount of time, we will compile some of those. If they're similar, we'll get to as many as we can. We encourage the candidates to, you'll be given 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. Each person will get to answer the same question. Please feel free to not use all your time. Once you've answered the question, that's fine. You don't have to use it all. We just ask that you stay on topic and not expand into something else to fill your time. If at any time we come up with a question that someone thinks that needs a rebuttal, then raise your hand, get my attention, and I'll give you some time to do that. We'll just see how that goes. After the last question, we will give each candidate 30 seconds for a summation and just finish up any loose ends that you think you might have wanted to say and forgot, or address something else. So we'll have 30 seconds there. As for the audience, I ask you to hold your applaud in any rally campaigns where this is a forum. We want to hear all the candidates. It's not a candidate campaign meeting, so let's try to keep that to a minimum. We'll speed things up, and we don't want to get into some contest out there. So, with no further ado, are there any questions? With no further ado, then we will start with our school board candidates. The school board has 2 openings for a 3-year term this year. 3 candidates are running for these 2 positions. In alphabetical order, they are Tina Graff, Joe Price, and Gina Smith. There's 1 opening for a 1-year term. 3 candidates are running for this position, and they are Marv Cochran, Nancy Shelton, and Chris Ray. We have 4 of those 6 candidates here. I know one of them is at least having some health issues that maybe couldn't be here, but we will start here. Our person that is asking the questions this evening for the school board is Vanessa Zalora Hargraves over here. We will start with her. You'll have 1.5 minutes, and Linda is going to be up front here. At 1 minute, she'll give you the orange card to say we've had 1 minute, and at 1.5 minutes, she'll give you the red card, and we'd ask you to try to stay on that time. So, we're going to start, let's just start on this end with Gina, and ask our first question, please.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, if at any time you need me to repeat the question, just let me know, I'm happy to. Should school board members have a role in the day-to-day operations of the district?
Is my mic on?
You have to hold it very close. It'll come out of the stand and hold it.
Y'all can hear me? Thank you. Vanessa, would you repeat the question now?
Yes, ma'am. Should school board members have a role in the day-to-day activities of the district?
Thank you. My name is Gina Smith. I'm running for one of the 2 3-year positions in the district.
Wait just a minute, I'm sorry. I've already broken my own rules, didn't I? You're supposed to have 1 minute to introduce yourselves, and we will go down the line.
Okay. I was just going to kind of combine it together. I'll just go forward. My name is Gina Smith. I am a proud graduate of Harrisonville High School, as well as my mother, my father, my daughter, and my many of my family members. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in education from the University of Central Missouri. I retired from Harrisonville School District, 14 years as an administrator, and the other years as a teacher and adult and community education coordinator. Currently, I retired from the district in June of 2015. Currently, I'm an adjunct instructor for the University of Central Missouri, working in the alternative teacher certification program, and I am a educational consultant for a national nonprofit organization that focuses on school reform.
My name is Tina Graff. I am a graduate of Ruskin High School. I moved to Harrisonville in '95 when I married my husband, so I've lived down here for quite a while. Both of my children are in the school district. Both of them right now are at the middle school. I am sadly going to have a high schooler next year. I am also the chair for Bright Futures Harrisonville. Really kind of started seeing a need to step up in the community and be a little bit more active with the kids in the school district with some of the things that I've learned through Bright Futures. And I'm just ready to try to help make a difference.
I need to make sure my mic is working. Is it? Okay, you're all shaking your head yes. First of all, thank you for being here tonight. My name is Chris Ray, and I know most of you in here. I graduated from Harrisonville High School in 2002. Then I went on to Wash U in St. Louis. I studied accounting and finance, and I graduated towards the top of my class. I took a few years, and I actually practiced public accounting. I'm a CPA in the state of Missouri. What I specialized in was local governments. So I audited school districts, cities, counties, and various governmental agencies. I did that for a few years, and then I decided to go to law school. I went to the University of Notre Dame for law school. I went there because they offered me a position on their faculty, so I was actually an accounting professor at Notre Dame. And then I moved back here a few years ago. I practiced law in Kansas City. I'm a professor at Avila University, and I'm running for school board with Tina and Gina because I think we see the need for some change in the way our school board operates. We need transparency and integrity and openness, and I think we bring that.
I'm Nancy Shelton, and I live in Harrisonville with my husband Bill, and we own a general construction business. I have 3 children who attended Harrisonville High School, and now I have 3 grandchildren who attend the district, so I hate to say it, but yes. Anyway, I've been on the district board before, and I had the pleasure of serving for 3 terms, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I, like Chris, felt like it was time for more transparency just from what was going on that I heard. And that wasn't a lot because I'm not on Facebook, so I don't read any of that stuff. So just the few little things I was hearing, I just felt like it was time for me to get back on board.
Okay, guess what's next? Would you ask the first question?
We're going to have it memorized. Should school board members have a role in the day-to-day activities of the district?
Okay, I think that there's a specific role for school boards. I think that's identified in the training that we have. One of the most important roles, I believe, of a school board member is to hire district-level administrators with the experience and expertise, someone that we can trust to oversee the day-to-day responsibilities. Of course, the school district has the utmost responsibility in the end. It is very important that we work together as a team and that we have that respect, we have that transparency, and that we have the trust of the public, the students, the parents, and the community members, and the educators that are working in our school district.
I do not believe that the school board members should be an active part of the day-to-day part of the school district. We are not there in the day-to-day trenches. That's not what we do for a living, so I don't think that that's somewhere we should be. I think if there's communication, I think if the spirit of teamwork is there, I think if the spirit of doing the best thing for the kids in this school district is something that is openly communicated, then there is no need for school board members to be in the day-to-day activities of the school district. When you start putting people that are not in the trenches in those positions where they are making those decisions as if they're there in a day-to-day basis, I think sometimes that can muddy the waters. Sometimes that will also not, it hinders the communication that needs to effectively happen. And it can also, it can affect the culture of the environment in those buildings. Who do you depend on? Who do you turn to? Who do you trust? And that needs to be extremely transparent. There's a hierarchy, there's a way that things need to work, and it's very, very important that you stick to that or things start falling apart. So no, I do not believe so.
I fully agree with that answer. There's a role for the school board and there's what they shouldn't be doing. And here's what the school board should be doing. They should be a champion for their community and a champion for their school. They should go to businesses, they should gather all the donations they can for the foundation to support the school. They should be champions for our teachers, they should be champions for our taxpayers. But they don't need to be in the high school, the middle school, the elementary school every single day. That's not what they're there for. We hire extremely competent and well-educated professional teachers and staff to handle that for us. There's no need for us to be there second-guessing what they're doing. It makes them uncomfortable in their job, and it makes us a little bit too involved. It makes you too close to the situation. The board is there to set policy. It's there to make sure the taxpayers' wishes are represented and the community is on board with what the school is doing. They are not there to second-guess people who have training and education. Listen, I used to teach high school, I've taught college. If the board of trustees was in my classroom every night, I would be deeply disturbed. But the school board should be there. They just shouldn't be there in the schools controlling the day-to-day operations. They need to be there at football games. They need to be there at community events like this one. They need to be there anytime there's a community gathering to represent the school, to act as a champion for the school, and to make sure the community is on board with how the tax dollars are being spent.
Yes, and yes. MSBA, which is the Missouri School Board Association, has a very well put together training manual and meetings that you attend once you become a school board member. And they make it very clear in that training that you are there for policy reasons only. You are not to be involved in other activities. Of course, you want to hear concerns from parents and patrons, and then you direct them to the appropriate person, and that would be the superintendent, who is to take care of it from that point on. But MSBA and, yes, policy is what school board is about.
Thank you. Second question, and we'll start with Nancy on this end.
At the Board of Education work session held on March 9th, Superintendent Frank Dahman indicated that the district is considering breaching its contract with Apple for the Mac laptops currently in use at HHS. Early, because that contract was entered into by a previous board. Mr. Dahman was quoted in the Democrat saying one board cannot be held accountable to another board's decision. Since new board members are elected each year, this would imply that a contract would only be binding until the election each April. If elected, will you support the theory that a board member is not required to honor contractual obligations made by a previous board? If so, will this affect contracts with other service providers, such as Durham Transportation, or even administrators such as Mr. Dahman, who have contracts which transcend election periods?
You know, I'm not an attorney, and Chris can probably answer this better, but I would rely on an attorney's advice for that. And my statement to that would be several of the board members that were on board when that contract was made are still on board at this time. So they would be responsible for that, I believe, but it would depend how the contract is written, if you could break that or not, I would think.
I'm going to answer this in two parts, generally and then specifically. Generally, no, the school board must be able to bind itself and future boards. We have bonds in the school district that last decades. The idea that we could walk away from those and just abandon the investors of the district would be a disaster here. Similarly, we have contracts with professional staff that are multi-year. The fact that we could walk away from those and not be bound by past decisions is nonsensical. We're an honest and hardworking people. We honor our commitments. That's who we are as Harrisonville, and I'm afraid of any decision that would send the wrong message there. Now specifically, I reviewed that contract with Apple today. I reviewed it thoroughly. I looked up the relevant statutes. The board might be able to get out of it, but that's not the relevant question. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. And the fact is, we are a district that honors our commitments. Whether it was the right decision 2 years ago, that's up for debate. But the fact is, we have to honor our commitments. Otherwise, nobody will ever contract with us again. The bondholders won't contract with us. The superintendents that we need in this district, they won't come. The principals, the staff, nobody will contract with this district if we freely break contracts. So that is just a silly idea that I think we have to dispel with.
I'm going to take this from, I'm a banker, and when you come into the bank and you get a loan, you sign the loan documents, and you sign a promissory note promising to pay the loan back. When you do not pay the loan back, there are consequences for this. It's the same with any contract. So first and foremost, I would say, I would like to read the contract myself. More than me reading the contract myself, though, you have to be very careful when you're going to step outside those bounds. First of all, the reputational risk may be far greater than actually breaking that contract, the financial involvement of breaking that contract. So there's just risk involved with it. I think that there's an integrity issue perhaps as well. When you break that contract, you're saying, it's okay to go ahead and change my mind. Change the mind because somebody else made the decision. Well, sometimes you just have to roll with the decision that was made and make the best of that until a better or another opportunity comes along. I just think it's very, very dangerous, very boggy ground to talk about breaking contracts because the reputational risk to this school district, it will take years to recover that.
I am very concerned about the district breaking a contract that they're in the middle of. The only information basically that I have at this point is what I read in the paper because I'm privy to those meetings that are the school board meetings, other than what was discussed in public. My concerns are that if there is an issue and a need and a reason to change something mid-contract, that there needs to be input for that. There was a lot of input that was received before the district made the decision to purchase those MacBooks. Students were involved, students tried out different devices, parents were involved, teachers were involved, and the community was given that information as well. So it was a long process to get to the point where the district decided that that was the best use of the funds at that time. I think if the district, regardless of the fact of agreeing with the integrity of the school district being online here, if we break a contract mid-contract, I believe that it's a big decision that needs to be made with a lot of input. There are a lot of dollars that are included in addition to the money that we would have to pay if we break that contract. Teachers have put 2 years, I believe now, 2 or more years into training, building up applications and software programs, training the students. And in order to change mid-term, mid-4-year contract, those Apple computers would need to be brought back, cleaned up, turned back over to Apple. Bids would have to go out for new devices. The new devices would have to be issued, set up for the district. Teachers would have to be retrained in many reasons, and in many situations. So I think that there's a lot that needs to go into consideration of that. And thank you.
Linda, would you
Yeah, hold it higher. I didn't see it.
get a little better view? I want to make a comment on that question. I thank the candidates for their responses, and I think in concept they did a great job to tell us their thought process on that. But as we discussed that question earlier, as we were putting these together, I said I want to make sure we don't jump to conclusions on those answers and the position. Mr. Dahlman isn't here to explain himself. There was one short mention in the paper. I'm sure there's a lot more involved, so I don't want us to all jump to conclusion that they are going to break a contract or something. But we thought it was a good conceptual question to ask and the thought process behind it. Next question, and we'll start with Mr. Ray.
What is the school board's biggest challenge, and how, if elected, would you tackle it?
It's trust. Right now it's trust. It's been trust for 3 years. Over the past 3 years, the school board has lost a major lawsuit for the abuse of a staff member. The school board was admonished by the Attorney General. The school board spent almost $200,000 to get out of contracts and almost $200,000 in legal fees. Several staff members have resigned, and the school board's been in the papers for many of the wrong reasons. So it's trust. But that's behind us, because there's an election in 2 weeks, and this election is about more than what's happened in the past. It's about what's going to happen in the future. And I think that there's a threefold platform that will get us to where we need to go. We need to make 3 promises. To the students of this district, you will get the best education you can here in Harrisonville, and you'll be proud to be a graduate of our schools. To the parents of this district, the same goes. We will support you, and we will support your children throughout their education. And lastly, to the teachers of this district, we've got your back. We know that you're professionals, we know that you're qualified, and we know that you're good at your jobs. And we're not going to be there in your business every day. Rather, we are going to support you, and we're going to, as a school board, make sure that you have the resources you need to succeed. Because in this town, our schools are our greatest asset, and we can't give up on them very lightly.
I think a big challenge facing our school board today is the lack of communication. I can't say that one way or the other whether I think people are bringing great ideas to the table or not bringing great ideas to the table. I can just say that there's no smooth flow. If there was a smooth flow, then we would not have lost as many staff members as we lost last year. There's a lack of faith, and we have to restore that faith that there is a partnership, and I feel like there's not a partnership, and I worry when as many teachers and staff members leave the school district as what have left last year, what may potentially leave this year, what kind of education does that leave for my children? So without that communication that provides the best and clearest partnership, I worry about the education my children and every other child in this school district are getting. I think we're focusing on issues that aren't really issues to the school district, and we need to bring that focus back, because at the end of the day, we want this school district to be a model district for other schools in this area, and that's not happening. That is not happening at all. When you attend a conference that has nothing to do with your school district, but people find out where you're from and they ask you about it, that's a problem. So there's a clear lack of partnership happening right now, and we have to get back to that, because at the end of the day, the children in this school district are the most important thing.
I think you might have accidentally turned
I
the
did.
mic off.
I did.
So, yeah.
Did I project loud enough?
You did all right.
I think we're back on now, are we?
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge with our school board right now, and I've been in the district for 26 years, I've seen a lot of school members come and go, and a lot of administrators come and go over the years, over 26 years. And I think that one of the biggest challenges we have now with the educators in our district is trust. I think that we have a lack of trust. I think we have some concern about what's being done that isn't transparent. I think that I've talked to a lot of educators that don't necessarily feel supported. They're afraid when school board members show up in their buildings and walk through their buildings and walk in their classrooms. I think that it's important as a board, if I am elected to the board, and if any of us are elected to the board, that we restore that trust. We make sure that our educators and our parents know that they're supported, and we hire the best people to do the jobs that they're educated to do and that they're trained to do and they have experience to do. It's very important that as a board, even though we don't always agree on everything, that we work together to do the best we can for our students to prepare them for college and careers.
Real fast, I'm sorry, we had requested put the mics a little closer so people in the back can hear.
Okay, I agree with everything that's been said, and I would just add to it, I believe that not a degree, but professionalism needs to be returned to the school board. There is that, and there's also, when you're in a closed meeting, you are not to reveal any of the details that happen during that closed meeting to anyone. Only the people that were in that meeting are to know what happened. And unfortunately, I think that has caused some of the confusion and the communication and the trust issues, because some details have been leaked out from closed meetings to different people. And that is not supposed to happen. And when that continues to happen over and over, that also affects the trust of the school board members, because you do not feel free to say what needs to be said in these school closed meetings. It doesn't matter if it's personnel, if it's real estate, if it's lawsuit issues that you're dealing with. You have to be free to discuss those issues without fear of it coming back to bite you because you said something in confidence. So I would just like to reiterate, yes, trust and confidence in the board is probably the highest concern at this point.
Next question.
All right, another long one, so bear with me. Our high school has a drug problem that has reached epidemic proportions, a tragedy waiting to happen. The students both using and selling the drugs are in every genre of student population. Students with high GPAs, students involved in multiple activities, and across the board in our student athletes. Students are dealing and using drugs while at school, coming to school sober and leaving high. There are houses in our town known to the students as a place to do and purchase drugs, all while adults in charge point fingers at each other or turn a blind eye. Our high school is no longer a safe environment for our children. What do you propose not only to address the situation, but to put a stop to it before a devastating tragedy occurs in our community?
Tina, we'll start with you and you.
First of all, the drug problem is not just an epidemic in Harrisonville, it is an epidemic everywhere. So, how do you stop it nationally? Because it's just a problem wherever you go. I'm going to approach this from a law enforcement standpoint. My husband's in law enforcement. I think there needs to be more law enforcement in our schools. One SRO for our high school is not enough. There's no way that one police officer can be in this location when something's going on over here. You can't be in more than one place at a time. So I definitely think there needs to be a higher police presence in our school district. There has to be bigger penalties. When you have athletics involved, I know that sometimes that's a touchy subject, that you really want that kid that's your star football player, but I have to tell you, I have been very, very pleased with our football coach, that I don't feel like he messes around with that. Perhaps that's been something that's happened in the past, and that's going to be a continued struggle. But he's going to tell you family is first, grades are first. Those things come first. They are more important than football. So I think when that sets a precedent, I think that gives you a really good solid ground to work on. I don't think that's been something we've had always, so it's going to be a continued effort. But you have to have that mentality where whatever you're involved in, that comes second. That's all. I ran out of time, sorry.
I spend a lot of Wednesday afternoons at the Jackson County Department of Corrections. I work with kids that are in middle and high school that have been arrested, and that's just part of my pro bono activities as an attorney. One of the most frequent reasons that they're arrested is because of drug issues. And so this isn't just limited to Harrisonville. This is actually across the board a problem in the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas. I always ask my kids, why did you do this? I mean, you have such a bright future. Why did you make this mistake? And the answer is actually really sad. And a lot of times it's peer pressure, but a lot of times they just didn't have a good role model, or they didn't really see that they had a bright future. And I think pointing that out to them actually does go a long way in solving the problem. I agree with Tina. I think having additional law enforcement involvement is good. Kids can meet the officers. But I also think talking to the kids and saying, you have a really bright future, and you could waste this with drug use. If you're caught, you can't get student loans, and good luck affording college these days without them. If you're caught, you can spend quite a bit of time in the juvenile detention center, and it's just sad. So I think we need to talk to our kids. I mean, we have to get the parents involved because it does start at home. We have to get the teachers involved, and we have to get the law enforcement involved. But I think we need to deliver a message. You have a bright future. Why waste it with drugs? And I think if we show kids some of our best alumni and the things that they've gone on to do, I think that that would sort of become a secondary concern, and they could envelop themselves in activities.
Practically, it's hard to fight this problem. It keeps going around and around in circles. And I know teachers have a hard enough job just trying to teach during the day. But when they have to turn into a parent and take care of 20 kids or 30 kids in the classroom and take care of each individual one and their needs, not just their book needs, but their emotional needs and their physical needs. I mean, I know these teachers care a lot about kids, and they do try to help them. But if they are helping those children, then what about the kids that are sitting there wanting to be taught and do want to learn? That's the other side of the spectrum. So it's hard. It is a